There are a lot of books about dating advice for men, but there are only 7 top books that I would recommend if you are a single guy. And I double recommend them to you if you are a single guy working a job that's very analytical. If you are a programmer, if you're an analyst, if you work at a tech company, if you're in the financial sector, anything that comes with really high performance expectations that requires a lot of logical thinking, then these 7 books are really gonna help you because they changed my way of thinking about the world. And they took my dating life to a whole different level. In my 20s, I finally got a job after graduating at the #1 company in the world. And here I am looking at other guys with no jobs, walking around with the type of girls I wish I knew how to attract. And I'm wondering to myself, I thought I made it. Why aren't women attracted to me? I have a great job, I'm smart. What is going on? So these 7 books became the starting point of my journey, and I hope that they can help you too. Okay, the first book is called the Venusian Handbook. For the first time as a 23-year-old virgin, I learned about a step-by-step model of how to attract women. It was the first time that someone laid it out for me in a logical way, something that didn't make sense. And when I implemented the method and I actually saw the trained instructors do it for real, it was like my whole world was in black and white, and now I could see color. This is a very old book. Over the years, many things have changed, but the principles stay the same. Some people would argue that all of the current dating coaches today are actually different branches from the original Venusian Handbook. It's also known as the mystery method. If you're not a natural, like me, if you were born without that charismatic, natural vibe that women just gravitate towards, maybe you're a little awkward like I was, maybe you can't read social cues, I think this book is a must-read because it breaks down natural interactions in a logical, analytical way, and it shows you step by step how to implement them, how to really understand how attraction works. One of the breakthroughs of this book also is that attraction is not enough. You also need comfort. One of the biggest drawbacks of this book is that a lot of guys who read it, they didn't implement, they didn't take action, and they became these social robots that are just like rehearsing lines. And they read the book too literally without seeing the actual in-field application of how it works. And that's why I'm also recommending book number 2, The Alabaster Girl by Zan Perion. When I interviewed Zan many years ago, he told me this is a book that took him over 10 years to write. In his words, in the land of women. Unlike the first book, this book flows, it's flowery, it's romantic, yet it captures the very essence of romance and the flowing energy of the feminine and the grounded, dominant, stable energy of masculine. It remains one of the greatest reads of my life. You really have to experience the book for yourself. Every time I read it, I learn something new because there's different levels of depth. I suggest you look up my mentor Zan on YouTube, see how he does his interviews. Then look up my other mentor Eric and see how he does interviews, and you'll see how the real life personification of who they are in the way that they speak on camera and how their life philosophies comes through in these 2 pillar books. The third book is Models by Mark Manson. I read this book only once and I read it very quickly because I knew by page 30 that this was very similar to my own method. But I keep hearing about this book from many of my students. Why? I think it's because this book tells you how to actually authentically attract women and how being authentic actually makes you more attractive. And this was a very new concept at that time. And for those of you that are struggling to find yourself or be authentic in an attractive way, I think this is a great book. The Evolution of Desire by Dr. David Buss. Dr. Buss is one of the leading researchers of evolutionary psychology, okay? He wrote this book in the 90s. And back then it was considered very controversial, but it's based on science and it lays the foundations of how men and women evolved to now possess these attraction triggers. It lays a groundwork for their survival and replication value that the Venusian Handbook uses. And it talks about the universal traits in women and men and why they're attracted to each other. This is such an important book. I think of this book as like the classroom clinical research based on science, and then the Venusian Handbook as the application of the science in the real world when you go out in the field to see how it actually works. Number 5, Keeping the Love You Find by Dr. Harville Hendricks and Dr. Helen Hunt. My therapist recommended this book to me. I realized at one point I could get the girls attracted to me, but I couldn't keep a girlfriend, or I ended up with the wrong girlfriend. And this book helped me understand that the skills to attract a girl is different than the skills to get into and maintain and grow a healthy relationship. It's a great book if you're already attracting girls. It's a quality problem. And then your next step is how do I actually attract the right girls and how do I keep them? Number 6, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by Dr. John Gray. One of the classical men and women books. This is an easy easy read, entertaining, fun, and it explains how the brains of women and men are wired differently and how that manifests in everyday life. It's a lighter version of The Evolution of Desire and a really fun read. Number 7, Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins. And Dr. Hawkins changed my life with his work because in this book, he talks about forgiveness. He talks about the different levels of letting go and how when letting go of things can actually lift you up and free you from the weight that's been accumulated over the many years. One girl after another, one relationship to another, I realized that no matter who I date, I was still carrying around my own trauma. It helped me release a lot of my trauma, my negative spiral of bad thoughts, of things I held on to. And in the end, I realized that to have a healthy relationship with someone, I must first have a healthy relationship with myself. I have included links to all 7 books in the description. If you've read any of them, let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them in the comments below. Now, one important thing you should know is that reading books is amazing for your learning. But as many coaches in my industry know, the biggest reason when a client doesn't reach his dating goals is due to a lack of positive feedback loops from actions that they're already taking. So what does that mean? It means that most clients, right, 80% of them will read, they go on YouTube, they watch all these videos, and nothing happens because they don't actually put in the training and they're not getting proper feedback on the action that they're taking. The other 20% of my clients, guys who actually get good, usually only end up coaching with me for a few months and then they end up in a relationship because they have a feedback loop. They've read the stuff, they've watched the material, focused on one thing, one method of learning, and they went out there and tried it, and then they came back and got a coach when they couldn't figure it out for themselves, and they went through this loop a couple of times and then started getting the results that they wanted. Every one of my successful clients have created a successful positive feedback loop. The results aren't always positive, but they always get the right revisions, so when they try again, they become better and better, okay? And if you want some help with that, I've also included links in the description to book a call with me if you're stuck. I hope you enjoy these 7 books. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you in the next one.